Well, howdy there, guys. It's been quite a long time, hasn't it? A couple of years, if I'm remembering all my math right here. If you're curious where I've been, I got a job at a radio station that ate a whole lot of my time, and I really enjoyed that job, but I had a couple more years of government-paid college to attend, so I figured I may as well do it now rather than later before it all expires, right? So I have a lot more time now because I'm back in college, and college is, less time-consuming than a full-time job. And I thought I might get back into YouTube because, I really like that whole YouTube thing that I did. I really like spreading information and getting people to view things in new ways, and, just having people tell me that my view on something or something I said really had a profound effect on them was super rewarding, even if I wasn't getting millions of views or anything like that. I didn't really want millions of views. If I could affect one person, in my opinion, that whole endeavor was worthwhile, and I think I did. I really do think that I had a profound effect on some people, and that means a whole lot to me. So getting back into YouTube, though, the field has kind of changed, hasn't it? There's a lot of YouTube channels that do philosophical analysis of shows now. One of my favorites is Wisecrack. I love those guys. They have great production values, even if they're a little pandering and condescending sometimes. But yeah, I love Wisecrack, and I think they're doing what I used to do, but better with higher production and with an actual timetable. So I thought I might try something different. Rather than viewing how media affects the culture that we're in or how things influence media, I thought I might do something kind of similar but also kind of different. I thought I might look at how things in our lives affect how we consume media, and in turn that media has an effect on us. I'm thinking of calling the show Connect the Dots, and you might consider this sort of a pilot episode. I'm just going to gauge the water, see what you guys think of the whole thing. My general idea is I want to get someone to tell a story from their life, unscripted, like I'm not on a script right now, as unscripted as possible, just their pure recollection, and it's a lot easier to edit that way and everything else. So here's my story. Here's the media that I'm going to connect the dots to. So you guys know, or probably some of you at least know, that I was in the military, right? And I even served overseas. I was in Iraq. And matter of fact, one of those Philosotaku videos I did, one of the ones I'm most proud of, in fact, a defense of anime as a medium, was shot and recorded and edited while I was in a Connex storage unit in Iraq. While I was editing, we'd often have to take mortar fire. I was in a little tiny base, and we got hit with mortar fire every single day. So just, fun fact about that video if you ever go back and watch it, and man, that guy can't edit at all. Well, I was getting hit by mortar fire, what do you expect? Anyway, when I was in Iraq, I had a pretty specific job anytime we were out on mission. I was what they called the point man, or what my lieutenant affectionately referred to as Operation Shield, or Operation Meat Shield. It meant I was the guy in the front, and my primary duty was to make sure that if we started taking fire, I died before the lieutenant died. And I don't hold that against anybody. Somebody's got to do it, and I was a little more brave, filled with a little more bravado than the rest of the guys, and I was stronger too, so I could carry like a saw or something like that. So not a big deal there. I'm not sore about that. But the story I want to retell involves me being the point man, and it kind of affects a lot of the things that go on in that story. So just keep in mind that I was always the guy out in front. And this is the story of the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. Not the most dangerous situation I was in, not by a long shot, but it was, without a doubt, the most frightening thing that's ever occurred to me. So we were looking for this guy who had been hitting our base with mortars. His name was Muhammad, and I will never forget it because it's like a, Kaiser Sose or something. It's like just a fake name to me. It just sounded completely made up. But his name was Muhammad, and we had intelligence that kind of narrowed him down to what we thought was about a city block. So we went out to this little tiny village, probably about 50 people in that whole village, and we started kicking in doors. That wasn't a thing we did very often. We were an artillery battery. We weren't infantry, so we weren't kicking doors open very often. We were usually just presence patrols, but this is a time that we were going in and trying to find one high-value target. So we were clearing these houses, and clearing houses, you just kick a door in and you search all the rooms for them. And we hadn't found anybody, but the last house we were going to go to, where we had in fact told our trucks to park because we were pretty sure that's where he was hiding out. It was the biggest house in the village, and the lights were always out. This is the one we decided to hit last. So we go up to that house, and my lieutenant was an old infantry guy, and he just started insisting, he's here, I can smell him, I know he's here. So we line up on the door. The two-man, who's the guy right behind me, kicks open the door, and I'm just positive that the second I turn that corner, I'm going to get shot. And that's just going to be the end of me. I'm going to get shot and die in a desert in Iraq, right? So I turn the corner, and it is a completely empty house. It is dark. I got my lights on. I'm searching the thing, and this house is just totally empty. There's a couple of sparse pieces of furniture in it and pretty much nothing else. The other guys come in right behind me. We check it out. It's all clear. We can't find anything. But my lieutenant is still just saying, he's here. I can smell him. Start looking around. Look for hidden doors, start finding something. And he starts knocking on the wall and moving furniture around. And sure enough, there was this, like a shelf, like a china cabinet or something against a wall. And he shakes it, and it's not, pressed up against the wall correctly. It was kind of leaning against it. And he moves this china cabinet, and there is this tiny, horrifying stairwell that just goes down. It's like this little dirt stairwell that looks like it was dug out with shovels underneath this house. It doesn't look stable. It's itty-bitty, like probably 4 feet. It is a very, very small little hole. And, of course, I'm the point man. So the lieutenant looks at me and he goes, Z, get down there. You're the point man. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not at all want to go down into that hole, not even a little tiny bit. So I'm honestly just trying to think of a reason why we can wait, or maybe just camp out here until someone comes up or something. I just don't want to go down there. So I'm looking at it, and I'm honestly assessing here. Like, I can't tactically carry an M4 down this little stairwell. It's just too small. I can't fit my weapon down there. So I said, sir, I don't think I can get my weapon down there tactically and open a door and be able to respond to someone pointing a gun at me. And he's like, I think you're right. And he unclips his pistol and trades me weapons. And I'm like, well, here we go. I guess I got to do this now. So I scrunch on down about as small as I can get. Again, it's this tiny little archway. And I go down, and there is this metal door that opens inward, by the way. And this metal door is wet with something, and it just smells terrible. Like barnyard waste, awful, rotting vegetables, just the worst things you can imagine. It smells awful. And ammonia. There's a strong scent of ammonia with it also. So, I hold my breath. I'm positive, 100%. Like, I know for a fact that the second I open this door, I'm just going to get shot, and that's the end of me. So I open the door, pull it open, I go in, and I clear this room. It's probably a 20 by 20 little basement. It is dark as heck. It smells awful, and it's completely empty. There's nothing in there other than this trough on the other side of the wall. So I call all clear. The guys kind of real slowly make their way in. They make it in with their M4s. And we're looking around, and well, this is really strange, but there's nothing here. And the LT is like, no, I can smell him. There's something here. And he goes over to this trough and he shakes it. And this one's actually like fixed into the wall or something, or it was too heavy. I don't know. But he looks in it, and it is filled with refuse, like sewage, like it's a pooping hole. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a place where they were using the bathroom, I guess, because it's just pee and poop, like in lack of a better term. But to my surprise, the LT just dunks his hand right into it. And he starts feeling around. And I knew it. There's a reservoir. There's a reservoir underneath this trough. And he's feeling around. And he's like, Z, you have to go into the reservoir. No, sir, please. I didn't say that because, you gotta be strong, I guess. I don't know. You gotta show that bravado when it's the hardest. And it was pretty hard here. But I look at it and I'm still holding that pistol and I'm like, well, no crap, there I was. So I step into this trough, and if I thought it smelled bad before, it smelled even worse now. And I feel around underneath this divot he was talking about, and I feel this reservoir he's talking about. There's there's like a little wall, and underneath that wall, you could just sort of duck your head under and come up, it felt like. So, sure enough, that's what I did, just held my breath as tight as I can, close my eyes as tight as I can. I go under, and the second I go under, man, like, things just started going sideways. Like, that stuff got into my ears. My eyes immediately started burning. Oh, I'd handed my glasses off to somebody because I wasn't about to get my glasses covered in refuse, but I go under, and things are just awful. My lips are, like, as tight as I can get them, but it's still coming in through my nose. I'm positive getting into my mouth. I'll explain why I'm positive it got in my mouth a little bit later. But I'm positive that this is just the worst. And what's more is if I was 100% positive before, I'm 200% sure now that the second I come up from this refuse, I'm going to pop up, get shot in the face, and then die in a pile of sewage. And that's going to be the end of me. But what actually happens was much stranger. And I really don't have a context or reason for why it occurred. But I pop up from this refuse, and there is a little platform, kind of like a hill going up, and a little platform in this was an even smaller room, probably 15 by 10, something like that. It was not a large room. And on this little platform are a bunch of children. And the children, the second they see me, all start pointing at me. And they all point at me, and they say, Alibaba! Alibaba! They start chanting it. One of them starts, and then they just, Alibaba! 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 I've come to find out later from our interpreter that was sort of a colloquial term for bad guy. I didn't know that at the time. For all I knew, they were trying to curse me or something. But yeah, they all start chanting in unison, Alibaba, and I am just getting hit with this surreal fantasy. Like, am I in a horror movie? What's going on? Am I getting pranked right now? It's just confusing and frightening, and I'm angry because I'm covered in sewage. My eyes are burning. I'm trying my best to wipe my eyes off with my glove that is also covered in refuse, so it's not doing a whole lot. I've got like urine and poop and all other manner of thing on my body. And as I start to look at the kids, there's another figure. There's a hunched down figure, looks like a woman, in the middle of the kids. And I start screaming because I'm angry. I start screaming at the kids to shut up. I start screaming at the woman to stand up, and I start screaming at everyone to show me their hands. I didn't know, the language well enough to say all that, but I'm trying to gesture and probably doing a piss poor job because I'm angry and covered in piss. But eventually the figure stands up and turns around, and it's not a woman. It's a man with a beard wearing woman's clothing for whatever reason. And he puts his hands up, and I start screaming for him to get on the ground. And he does, and I feel his sides to see if he has like an explosive device or a weapon on him or something like that, and he doesn't. And the kids are all screaming, all sorts of stuff, and I keep screaming at them to get down and occasionally flagging them with my weapon, because I don't know if any of them have weapons. We had just a couple months earlier had a 8-year-old throw an RKG-3 at one of our vehicles and kill a couple of guys, and I actually had to clean up that mess. That's another story for a different day, though. But as soon as I have, sort of cleared out this situation after I've screamed at this guy a bit, I guess the LT heard me screaming, and he comes under the sewage, and he comes up and he looks at the guy, and he says, "That's him! That's Muhammad! And LT was right. I guess he really could smell him. He was there. But that was just the most frightening moment for me for a number of reasons. It was directly frightening because I kept thinking my life was in danger, but it was also frightening in this super surreal way. Like, it's like the world was changing. Like, this house should not have had this little basement underneath it. It should not have had that trough. The trough should not have led to a secret passage. And when I came up from that secret passage, it definitely should not have been filled with children. it was just strange occurrence after strange occurrence that all made me feel paranoid and like I was about to get shot. End of that story, by the way, is that was the first time I got dysentery. I guess I did get some of that refuse in my mouth. And yeah, that's one of the ways you get dysentery. I'll tell you about the second time. Some other time, I guess. Another story time when it's me telling a story again. But that experience profoundly shaped the way that I view horror. See, because now when I look at horror, surreal aspects of horror have a much deeper, profound impact on me. One of my favorite examples is When They Cry, Higurashi no Neko Koro ni. That's one of my favorite examples because it plays with a lot of the same ideas. There is the direct threats going on. There are people that have dangerous, weapons and are actively trying to hurt one another in it. But there's also this surreal aspect. The world keeps resetting. Things keep changing. There are subtle offities about people. People will be normal one second and different the next. I also really like Twin Peaks for that reason, although there's not a whole lot of direct threats in Twin Peaks. It's usually just the weirdness. There's also this video game. It's called Deadly Premonition. It came out for the Xbox and the PS3, and most people didn't really like it. I don't think it reviewed very well, but I think that's because it was a horror game that was entirely trying to be uncanny. It was just trying to set you up in this weird and strange world that made you feel mildly uncomfortable, if not terrified. Like, it's not a game that'll ever make you wet your pants or anything like that, but it was definitely strange, and it did elicit a lot of reactions. Like, you can look up a lot of these goofy YouTube videos where this guy makes like a cereal sandwich, or there's these two people sitting on really far ends of this table and having a conversation while the music is entirely too loud to hear what they're saying. It's really genius, and it actually had a personal impact on me because the main character has this imaginary friend named Zach, and I thought that was like the game reading a file on me somewhere, and it had pre-programmed names or something. I don't know. It spoke to me very personally and kind of added to that surreal experience. But anyway, I think that's a thing now that I really look for in horror, and it's because of that experience that I had in Iraq, and that experience affects the way I now consume horror. Because I'm not so attracted to a lot of the common pulls of horror. I don't necessarily want a completely psychological or cerebral experience. I don't mind those things if they're done well, but the things that I really look for are that there is a direct threat. Like, I don't want it just to be, 60 minutes of tension and I don't know why I'm tense. And I want it to be surreal. I like it when there are aspects that are just off enough that it's strange. It puts me in a weird place where I just sort of feel uncomfortable. And that's things I like in horror now. And because of that, I've consumed more media that has that type of aspect. Like, I didn't watch Twin Peaks until I came back from Iraq, and I think it really only spoke to me so strongly because of my experiences in Iraq. And watching Twin Peaks and playing Deadly Premonition, and especially Higurashi no Neko Koro ni, which is one of my favorite horror mangas. It does a lot of really, really interesting things. Just in the way it sets up shots, things like that. But consuming that media now has changed the way I view other horror. I get to base all the other things that I watch against those shows because of my experience in Iraq. And if this was a full episode, if this was like a show I was actually producing, I'd probably go a little more into that. I'd probably detail Higurashi because, Philosotaku still, but I would probably detail that. I'd actually edit some stuff. It wouldn't just be me on my phone talking for 20 minutes. But let me know what you guys think. If you think you like this style, if it's, a story and then how that story affects the media that a person consumes. If you're interested in seeing some content like that, stories from me and other people maybe in my life that I think have interesting stories to tell, or maybe if you want to tell a story and analyze how it affects the media you consume, I'd love to hear about it. But Until next time, guys, what was it I used to say? Stay hungry.